I'm Ron with King Defense here with Mike. We're going to talk about the command school, what a security team is. So just as an introduction, we're going to define our shield wall. So in ancient warfare, the shield wall is the defensive layer that protects. And the strength didn't come from every warrior being the most skilled. It came from everyone working together. And that's kind of mentality we're going to get with the security team and all the aspects. So what is a security team? What roles do they play? How are they going to operate? And most importantly, what's the greater purpose? You know, we're going to be welcoming, have a peaceful atmosphere in the church, the school, or the community. So during this lesson, you're going to kind of see what we see what a security team is, not the Hollywood jacked up version that's just for show. That's not realistic at all.
The security team is essentially, it's going to be a very selected, carefully selected, trained and coordinated group of individuals who their primary purpose is to create and maintain an environment where the organization can safely pursue its mission. The mission enhancement. So security teams, it doesn't replace the organization's primary mission. No, they protect and enable it. So security teams, they create and maintain a safe environment through their presence, awareness, and actions. There's 5 pillars when it comes to a security team functioning properly. Every effective security team essentially has, it operates into 5 fundamental pillars, and it's the understanding that these pillars help leaders build teams that are both effective and appropriate for their organizational culture. So pillar 1, I'll cover right now, which is observation and assessment. The foundation of all security work is seeing what others basically can miss, right? Most people go through most of the day like this nowadays, to be honest with you. But generally speaking, we need to kind of be aware of our surroundings. What does that mean? Well, we monitor the environment. So monitoring the environment might be continuously scanning for unusual behavior, potential hazards, things like that, and any situation that may be developing. We also would assess the threat levels. So you're evaluating the situations to determine what is the appropriate response for what I'm seeing taking place. Is that person acting, with a purpose, an agenda? What are they looking to do? And what is the likely next steps if I don't intercede? And then maintaining situational awareness. This is actually basically the nuts and bolts of what we do as a security team. You're keeping track of multiple factors simultaneously. You're aware of who's in the building, what events are happening throughout the building. You're aware of any potential vulnerabilities that may exist and how the conditions that are changing throughout the day or throughout the service might impact that situation. So that's pretty much, pillar number 1. It's a well-trained security team that can spot potential problems while it's still manageable and either address them or alert the authorities that would need to be appropriated for that.
Yeah, excellent. So I would like to go over pillar 2. So pillar 2, de-escalation and conflict resolution. So what we're going to try to do here is tension diffusion. Hey, know how to calm people down, or if there's a certain individual that has an issue, professionally handle that with communication first and at the lowest level possible. Manage difficult personalities. So some personalities act different. We know this. You have certain rowdy bunches.
Definitely see that in the military.
You definitely see that in the military background. So position yourself in a certain way. Position them, if able, in a certain in a certain area, whatever it is, and try to work on know your congregation, know your flock, and put them in positions where they can do that comfortably and safely and not interrupt what's going on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's some people that are just looking to create drama. Mm-hmm. Recognize that in the foreground. Manage that's someone who's not really probably a threat. They're just a difficult personality, mm-hmm. and respond appropriately to that.
Yeah, excellent. And the goal is always to get the solution at the lowest level possible. Yep. The lowest level you need to.
Yeah. Moving into pillar number 3, which is emergency response and crisis management. So this is when all prevention measures have actually failed. Your security team needs to be able to respond quickly and effectively to protect the lives. This will include medical response, evacuation coordination, threat neutralization, and communication hub. And so I'll cover each and every one of those individually. But essentially, this is, we're in Pillar 3, this is what we train for, essentially. You're training for this worst case scenario, and this is basically it. Responding quickly. In the military, we have quick reaction forces. That's essentially what you are on the security team once this happens. You're kind of the QRF response. And so let's just cover medical response. Medical emergencies. So many security instances are actually medical emergencies or medical responses. Team members should be trained, or we recommend, at least from Kingdom Defense, for team members to be trained in basic CPR, basic first aid, at whatever level you guys deem appropriate. But that's what we recommend. The benefit of that is you're already on scene, and the security team is part of the medical response. So they may not be triaging and doing that type of stuff, of course, but they're at least de-escalating the situation, because tensions can rise when they see people have a heart attack or have a loved one or whatever. Tensions rise and chaos kind of ensues. And so security team is part of that response as well. And then obviously evacuation coordination. This is huge. This is a huge portion of what we do. In case of a fire, severe weather, any kind of threats requiring evacuation, the security team, this is a big part of your training, or should be, is how to safely ensure that everyone is accounted for, gets to the proper location. There's accountability for that. No one's left behind. And then also you're coordinating with the emergency response personnel as well, whether that be law enforcement, fire department, etc. And then threat neutralization. In rare cases, someone possesses an actual immediate physical threat to others. This doesn't happen. Well, I mean, it is happening more often.
Yes.
But ideally, members may need to intervene physically to stop the harm, but that is the last resort. Usually you can use de-escalation tactics, and that's usually where we start with that. And then the communication hub during emergency security team, they serve as the communication coordinators. They're aware of really everything they should be aware of everything that's going on in the building, as well as possibly the parking lot or within the geographical boundaries that have existed in the SOP. And information between the different groups and coordinating with first responders generally is done through the security team's knowledge. It may not be a member of the security team doing that briefing. It's up to the SOP to decide that, but they're generally involved because they're so aware of what's going on. So just keep that in mind.
Pillar 4, access, control, and environmental security. So greeting visitors necessarily doesn't need to be a security job, but understanding who's coming in, the amount, just to assess, is a good idea to have part of your security there. At least one person is.
And even if they're not on the security team, or if it's part of their job, let's say that's a separate ministry altogether, a visitor or a greeter, they should be aware of at least who the security personnel are. They should have direct lines of communication to security. So even though they're not operating a security function, they're kind of part of the security team in that aspect, I would say. They're the kind of eyes and ears of that location.
They're the first eyes, basically, you're going to get on that. Facility management, if you have video or you're just using your eyes, or you have a check-in system, whatever it may be, having that in there, having locks, monitors, cameras, whatever other physical barriers, you might have to open the parking lot and close the parking lot. But someone there to make sure everything is running smooth. And event security, if you have a special event, how you're going to manage the crowd, the flow, how you're going to manage potential problems. If something comes up, you need to relay that information, coordinate with local law enforcement whenever they do appear, or medical whenever they do appear. Asset protection. So while the people are the priority, also security team, protecting the assets, the equipment, the donations, any sensitive information of the congregation, that all has to be protected as well, and it all can be damaged or can be part of theft.
Moving into Pillar 5, our final pillar, which is intelligence gathering and reporting. And so with this, professional security teams, they don't just respond to incidences. While that is a function of what we do, it's not the only thing we do. We also work to prevent them by gathering and analyzing information. This is probably a big portion of like what you did, Ron, with like recon, or at least we're trained to do. Incident documentation. So you're taking these scenarios, you're maintaining detailed reports of all security related incidences. And then, it's a good idea to create like a database essentially, because it will help to identify patterns and improve like future responses essentially. So you're now developing kind of like the heartbeat of how that church actually operates by documenting as much as you can. And then the threat assessment, that's an evaluation where potential threats are based on behavioral patterns and communications and other indicators. But essentially, this might include like whether, let's say, someone was a dismissed employee. Do they actually pose a risk of a concern when it comes to like maybe posting on social media or whatever? Like, is there a risk because they've been let go from the church that from a position, are they going to come back and be a threat now? That's something we have to assess as part of the security team, and we do that through documentation and analysis and things like that. And then like information sharing, security team really should be maintaining appropriate relationships with local law enforcement and other security professionals in the area, if you have them. And then any relevant agencies that would share information about potential threats. So this would include like sex offenders, child sex offenders. You'd want to maintain and continuously monitor that. And it also shows who in the local area, is a sex offender and things like that. So with that, we basically those are the 5 pillars that really break down, what a security team is.